Hey y'all, welcome to the Cultivate Her podcast. This is a podcast where you are challenged to tap into your purpose, okay? You are challenged to activate your mind. You are challenged to tap into your purpose and think outside the box. Now, I'm here with my girl, Jen Boo, as always. Say what up.
What's going on, good people? I'm excited to be back for another episode, y'all.
Yes, y'all know, listen, y'all can't get rid of us. We are here forever, okay? Like, we are embedded in your phones and on every platform in the world. So go ahead, subscribe on YouTube, on Instagram. Subscribe everywhere. Like, just hit the hearts. It's all good. We love y'all too. You know what I mean? I forgive me in advance. Your girl is talking about trauma today, and unfortunately, I'm drinking.
Well, sometimes you need a little drink to get over some trauma, so I wish I had a drink prepared.
Because I'm gonna just take a shot. I'm not taking a shot. That's a lie. I will take a sip to all the people, Jen, who have really identified the trauma that they've been through, and y'all can't see me holding up my glass, but go on YouTube so you can. All right, and I'm holding up my glass to the women who have identified their trauma and currently are knowing how to talk through it, get through it, and face it. Okay? And most importantly, move on from it.
Right, heal from it. That's the most important part.
Healing. When I say moving on, I am talking about healing, because you can't move on unless you heal from it. Right? So shout out to y'all. I'm taking a big gulp for y'all. Okay?
Take a sip for me too, child.
I love y'all. Keep going. You deserve it, as my girl Anquiette would say from her Sticky Hope. Make sure y'all go listen to that too. She will always say, the person that you're becoming deserves it. And that's really, I can't forget her motto. I don't know, it's good.
That is good.
Yes, girl. So how you been? Checking in?
Girl, I've been maintaining, child. You know, life is crazy. Quarantine with this pandemic, with everything else going on in the world. So I'm just here trying to keep pushing forward. How about you?
Girl, the exact same. Just trying to keep myself busy. Really holding myself accountable to this secure as fuck life. I ain't gonna lie to you. You know, last week our episode was about, not last week, but by the time y'all hear this, it'll be weeks. But when we talked about being secure, I really been trying to literally walk in that, and I've been making sure that I take care of myself physically, emotionally, and mentally, so that I can be a secure ass bitch.
Yeah.
Okay. Real fast. So I feel good about it. I feel good about it. I feel good about myself. I'm feeling great. I might not be where I want to be with my goals, but I feel good, you know?
Totally can relate.
Yes. So y'all make sure that y'all taking care of yourselves. Make sure you're drinking your water. Make sure you're taking a little walk, having some Zen time, maybe a long ass nap. Okay? And love on you. Listen, if you can't love on you, who will?
And make sure we gotta mind our business, right? So if we're minding our own business, we won't have time to be in nobody else's business.
All right.
Put all that energy that we putting into everything else that's not conducive to our growth, put that energy right into you. And that goes right along in what we're talking about today with dealing with your trauma, right? If you take all your time and energy focused on everybody else, how can you heal from your own personal things? Focusing on yourself so that way you can really learn what your trauma is, identify what trauma is, period, and learn to heal from that.
I totally agree. Jen is definitely telling y'all, mind your business and take care of you, boo. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Do you, boo? Do you? Okay? So let's talk about it, girl. So recently, I had a friend that asked me, when is it the right time to talk about your trauma when you're in a relationship? And I thought that was a really good question. And I didn't have an answer, girl. I did not have an answer. Because I don't think there will ever be a right time to talk about trauma. I think there are moments where you can dive into it, but I don't think there's a right time. Do you think there's a right time to talk about trauma?
I agree. There's no real right time because who wants to be the Debbie Downer, right? Who wants to be the person to like bring down or bring up something that's not a good thing to talk about, right? So there's never a good time to talk about it. But it's something that needs to be done, right? Just because it's not a good time to do it doesn't mean that that's something that you shouldn't do. You just need to find the right person that's going to hear you in that moment, right? The worst thing that you could do is talk to a person that's completely not hearing you. That's the wrong time to talk about your trauma, because then you'll feel like you're talking to someone that's not listening, and that's not what you want to really want to feel in that moment. So you really want to just focus in on the person that you're spending that energy in and giving that information to, because that will make a difference with identifying quote unquote the right time. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well, I agree actually because I think well, I definitely want to go into triggers, right?
Mm,
I think sometimes when a trigger arises when you're dating or in a relationship, then that's the right time
mm.
to like say, "Hey, I went through this trauma and I don't like what you're doing right now." It reminds me of that. That's a trigger for me.
Yeah.
You know? I think that's the right time to say it. I don't know, like
It's just important to say, whether you feel like it's the right time or you don't feel like it's the right time, it's just something that needs to be said. Like, just like for an example, you being my friend, if you see something that I'm doing that's a flaw or an error, there's never a right time to say, "Girl, you fucking up." But it's needed, right?
yeah,
Like, you need to tell your friend, like, "Get it together." Like, of course, talk to me nice, like I always tell you, but some conversations, no matter how hard it may be or whether you feel like it's the right time or not, it just needs to be had. Especially if you're talking to a person that you're in a relationship with, or the person that's, causing the trauma. You just need to have that open communication, so that way you could really identify in that relationship what the trauma is, and you guys can work through it together instead of just being a victim to it, and that just becoming your new normal, right? That's what we don't want, to be stuck in a cycle that's not healthy for us. And we don't even recognize it as trauma. It's just reality. Right. So once you really start seeing like red flags that you're not comfortable with, whether in any kind of relationship, it doesn't have to just be romantic. It could be
right.
platonic. It could even be an employer and a coworker, whoever it may be. Just identifying those red flags. And once you see something that makes you uncomfortable, if you feel the need to speak up about it, just like you said, say, "Look, whoa, slow the horses. Like, what's going on here? Figure out what it is that where the disconnect really lies, and work from there." But definitely keeping it to yourself and holding it in is not the best thing for you to do, because like I said, you either become comfortable or you just start bottling things up, which is more unhealthy later on, because say for example, you're letting a lot of things build up, and then that one thing comes to you and you explode. Nobody knows where it's coming from, but
Exactly.
because everything is built up inside of you, you just release it out on whomever, probably not even the person that's giving you that kind of stress or frustration. But you need to just be as honest and open as you can, no matter how uncomfortable that conversation may be, whoever it may be.
I love that. You know what's crazy? You mentioned getting comfortable, and I think that if we're not aware of what our triggers are, we can get comfortable with people continually making more traumatizing us, if that makes sense.
That's
Like,
exactly what I meant by that. Exactly. It becomes your new normal. Like, it's not even like it's trauma anymore. This is just how my life is. And that's not how we want to live. Like we talked about, like you mentioned in last podcast that we recorded, you want to make sure that you're setting clear boundaries for your relationships with people. And if you're not setting those boundaries, people will treat you however. And that's not what we want. You
that's
wanna
very
make sure you're comfortable and confident in who you are, so you know what to request from anybody that steps to you incorrectly.
yeah. I think that sometimes we as the like say I'm on the other end as a friend, you and and I see you respond to something aggressively or get rowdy about it. I
Yeah.
think for me as the other person too to understand that, hey, this person feels some type of way about this, maybe you can also take the step to have the conversation. Because I
Mhm.
think when you take the step to have the conversation, because maybe the people who are traumatized don't know if they can trust you enough to talk about the trauma, don't know if they can really, because trauma is like a very vulnerable place, right?
Mhm.
To let out that trauma, it's like layers to the shit, you know?
Mhm.
Like you can't sometimes when you got like I've had some real moments in my life where I don't talk about certain things. But I'm like, damn, I can't load all this trauma on you. I'm gonna have to literally give you stage one, stage two, stage.
Yeah.
If you open up that door as a friend and realize, like, yo, you had this going on, I could probably give you stage one. And
Yeah.
then trust you a little bit more to give you 2, 3, and 4. But
Mhm.
there's layers to it, you know? So
Yeah.
that we definitely need to understand if there is anyone listening right now, and I think we've all faced trauma in our lives. I don't care what nobody says. Your life
Mhm.
is not perfect. Period.
Yeah.
We've all faced a sense of trauma. But if you're on the other end, if you're on the other end and you are engaging with someone or interacting with someone who has dealt with a certain trauma, I think the first step is to understand what it's like to release that trauma because it's not easy to talk about it.
Mhm.
And the reason why it's not easy, Jen, is because we don't know how people receive our trauma. Because then they start to overthink us and perceive us in a whole different way.
Judge you and start to feel sorry for you and treat you different. Yeah, I totally get it.
And most of the time, the person that's talking about their trauma just want to let you know. Whether
Yeah.
they don't
Just
need
wants understanding.
right.
Yeah.
They don't need you to feel bad. They don't need you to pity them. They don't want you to judge them. But
Mhm.
that's all those three things are the reason why people aren't open to sharing their trauma.
Mhm.
They aren't.
Yeah, that is a true fact indeed. And it's very unfortunate because you want to feel like you can open up and talk to people about certain things, but you do have to keep those things in mind because, you want to be able to, like I said, be heard about, what you're saying, not just to be, given advice. Like sometimes, like you were saying, we don't want advice. You just want someone to listen. So when a person's opening up to you about things that they've gone through, sometimes we need to just take that into consideration as to, overall why they behave the way they behave, why they are the way they are, instead of trying to judge or dictate how they should be, right? I just want to take a step back and to just identify what trauma is because trauma isn't always something as dramatic as we would expect it to be. It could be as simple as falling off of your bike, right? It could be something. Trauma is, this is the definition. It's a response to a deeply distressing or disturbing event that overwhelms an individual, right? So if we're going back and we're talking about an example of trauma, riding a bike and falling off your bike could be a trauma. I've had an employer that had trauma from their previous employee, but then they took that out on me, and when I addressed them about it, then, they didn't understand, but the situation was they had an employee that they said were stealing hours and they were doing so many other things on the clock, so they felt the need to micromanage me for the behaviors of their last, employee. So when I addressed them about it and I told them like, look, your trauma has nothing to do with me. So because the fact that you went through what you went through with your last employee doesn't mean that you need to micromanage me as if I'm incapable or incompetent to do my own job, right? Same way as me, I've had an employer who would literally stalk me. Like she would follow me to the bathroom to see what I was doing. I would be in the kitchen. Like she would just follow anywhere I would go. Where's Jen? What is Jen doing? Why is she not here? Why is she not at her desk? Like that kind of situation was traumatic for me because being overly micromanaged like that, I'm just not even going to go into the discrimination that I felt or went through in that position, but just the trauma that I've experienced with that employee, when that employer, with that manager at that time, I try not to take that out onto other employers because it's not fair to me, right? Just because I had one person put me in a position that scars me, whenever I feel the inkling of being like micromanaged or like, just an employer doing too much because we all know when employers do a little bit too much. Like that's a traumatic thing. So we need to really step back and understand our situations, think different things that we go through in our life and identify, is this traumatic for me? Is this something that is like that I've been holding on to because of an experience that I've had, and that's where we really need to start in identifying what our traumas are, just experiencing this because we go through different things all the time, especially Black women, girl. You know how it is. Trying to
Yes.
be a Black woman in the professional world, people try to treat you any kind of way, you just try to live your best up. We just need to embrace ourselves despite what anybody else has to say. And
I,
once we are able to do that, we're able to really learn and grow and heal ourselves from that.
I like that Jennifer went into identifying trauma because if you don't know what trauma is, you will continually be traumatized and not even realize that it's literally breaking you every day. Literally. And especially Black women. And I'm not excluding. I'm not even going to say especially the Black women because I'm not
We're
excluding.
saying especially because we identify as Black
Right,
women.
exactly.
So,
Yes,
mhm,
we both identify as, but we know that women have been traumatized over years and years and
yeah.
even until this day. I mean, I'm not trying to go off topic, but just going into the Me Too movement, these are women who have been through some real serious traumas. You understand?
Mm,
And for a long time, people have been ignoring them. And this is why that now, even decades later, centuries later, that here in the 2000s, we're having women marches. You understand?
mhm,
Because we've been overlooked, we've been tossed and turned. We're fighting for equality now in this very moment, where now people are open to different things. This generation claimed they're the generation of being woke, right? But at the same time, women are still fighting for equality, for equal pay. Women are still fighting for equal positions. Women are still fighting to be seen. Women are still fighting to get into industries that they can't get into. This is real. That's traumatizing.
mhm,
It's real traumatizing. We have to constantly prove ourselves every day. And let's not even talk about now I'm a woman and I'm Black.
mhm.
I'm Black. It's a struggle. It's a struggle I constantly face. The struggle of constantly having to prove myself. You understand? The
Mhm,
constant struggle to prove that I'm not like the stereotypes that you have placed me in.
mhm.
Real shit. I mean, like, it's a constant battle for me every day. I walk in, can I be real with you, girl? I went to a conference, and when I walked into the room, it was 10 Black people in there. And all you have, it's like you have to make sure that you stand out in a way where you're not categorized as this other Black person who's not
Mm,
professional. And then you get what I'm saying? Like
mhm.
the pressure
Yep.
to have to prove yourself. So I'm working the room, and in the process of me working the room, make sure you sit straight, make sure you talk proper, make sure you this, make sure you that. Don't let them categorize you. You're qualified to do what
Yeah.
anyone else. Like, girl.
And
Anyway,
that's traumatizing because the fact that you have to say all those things to yourself just so that way you can fit in or appear, you know what I mean, to be
appear as professional to be.
yeah, it's just unfortunate.
It's not even to appear, girl. It's to show that I qualify to be seated at this table like any other person.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. To show.
Yeah, of course.
And it's crazy because I know to myself, yes, I am qualified. I'm no different from any other mental health counselor in this room, right? I'm qualified to be here. But and at the same time, because of stereotypes, I now diminish where I belong in that very moment, questioning, degrading myself, like my mind, taking myself directly into that mindset, like, I don't know, girl.
Yeah,
You know, even down,
self-doubt.
even down to what I was gonna wear that day.
Mm,
You get what I'm saying? When you
yeah,
walk into that room, am I too dressed? Am I too much? Am I trying to fit in? It's
yeah.
crazy. Anyways,
And that's all a part of trauma because we've had experiences with employers or just being in an environment where people had just have a preconceived notion about who they think you are based off of what you wear, how you speak, or where you might come from. Trust me, we go through all the time, girl. All the time, especially like you said, we Black women, we really, and we come from, not to just throw it out there, but we come from the hood. You know what I mean? So, like, not that coming from the hood degrades you in any kind of way, but we're able to come from the hood, but divulge ourselves into a professional atmosphere and know how to keep it professional and keep it cute, but still have to be mindful about how people might perceive of
mhm,
us. You know what I mean? Because of how we were treated in the past by
yep,
past people or employers. And that's the trauma that we really experience in real life. So, it's crazy no matter what you go through, and no matter how big or small it may seem. You'll be surprised how it may affect your relationships or just how you move in the future with other people.
yeah, I agree. Going back, I know we went all the way there, but we had to. Sometimes
Yeah.
you gotta be real, you know? Sometimes you gotta have that talk. And it's okay for you guys to have these open type of conversations with each other. Because if we're not having them, we're not being truthful about our environment. We're not being truthful about our surroundings. We're not being truthful about our reality.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, we can't
Mhm.
sit here and ignore it. We cannot sit here and ignore what's going on. We are being traumatized every single day. Even if we don't want it, we don't choose to have it, it is happening. Do you understand? I
Mhm.
don't understand, man. This is
Girl.
real. I want to talk about, Jen talked about defining trauma, and I just want to go into the three different types of trauma.
Mhm,
There's acute trauma, chronic trauma, and complex trauma. Okay.
mhm,
Acute trauma, and this is according to medicinenet.com. Acute trauma is, it falls into irritation, confusion, irritable and not being able to rest, unreasonable lack of trust. All right,
mhm,
let's hold that.
yeah,
Inability to focus on work or studies, lack of self care or grooming, aggressive behavior. Okay, that's acute trauma. I assume that's the highest level from what I'm reading. Chronic trauma. It happens when a person is exposed to multiple long-term or prolonged distressing traumatic events over an extended period.
mm,
Chronic trauma may result from a long-term serious illness, sexual abuse, domestic violence, bullying, and exposure to extreme situations such as war. Okay.
mm,
Side effects from it could be anxiety, extreme anger, flashbacks, fatigue, body aches, headaches, nausea. Okay. Complex trauma. It's a result of exposure of varied and multiple traumatic events of experiences. The events are generally within the context of interpersonal between people and relationships. Wow. It gives the person a feeling of being trapped.
mm,
Complex trauma often has a severe impact on the person's mind. It may be seen in individuals who have seen victims of child abuse, neglect, domestic violence,
mm.
family disputes, and other repetitive situations, such as civil and unrest. Okay, I want to lay that in there because I think that we can definitely fall into each one and talk each.
Girl, yes, I can relate to all 3 of the different categories,
Yes,
seriously,
sure.
so
For sure. I know for a fact I can. I know for a fact I can, Jen.
mhm,
I mean, the moment I was reading chronic trauma, I was like, oh my gosh, let's be real. You know what I mean? How many people you know have faced bullying, domestic violence? You know what I'm saying? War. You got people who come back, PSD, stuff like that. I had a friend who went to
PTSD.
I had a friend, and he probably didn't have PSD, but he went to the military. And
Mm,
when he came back, he was a whole different guy. At the time, that's the Afghan war. And it was early 2000s, 2008, 2009 area. All right. He came back, he walked into the room and he's paranoid. He's looking for windows, doors. Like, mind you, he's been in areas where it's been bombed and shootings. I think that's a sense of trauma. How do you come
yeah.
back from something like that? You know?
That's definitely true. A lot of people that go into the military, they come back with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, from the experiences that they go through because, like you said, you're going to a foreign country and you're experiencing so many different things, a lot being, war. Not a lot because I'm not experienced as to what goes on, in the military, but they do experience war. So can you imagine going somewhere and you're seeing the people that you know, technically worked with, some people being injured, losing their lives, or fighting for a country, and we're doing all these things that's, you know, supposed to be helping our country. And you come back to America, which is your country, and you're supposed to live a normal life. Like, how do you go back to experiencing so much chaos to living a normal life? Like, you can only imagine. If I was him, I would probably look for any escape route as well, just because, like, at this point, you don't know when a bomb's gonna come down because life is so crazy like that. We don't know. I was watching the news the other day and an airplane fell out of the sky and landed on somebody's car as they were waiting at a stoplight.
That's
The
crazy.
helicopter chopped off their head. Like, you don't know, like, that's
What?
traumatic for the person that experienced it and posted it and all the people that were there around and the families and all that. But like, that just goes to show that life is too short. Like, you don't know. it, Imagine being a soldier and experiencing that kind of crazy stuff all the time. Like, you just don't know what life is going to take or bring you. So I can only imagine the kind of stress that he's been experiencing after going through what he's been through in the military. So my heart goes out to anybody that fights for this country because it's not easy. The stuff that they go through, I can only imagine what it is. I know I couldn't do it because I'm not about that life, but kudos to whoever is.
Yes,
And
close to
it's
you.
important for you to find out after the fact, just get the care that you need to get yourself back to the place that you find normal. Like PTSD is real. So that's something that should be, I guess, managed. Like they should have some kind of facility to help mold these people back to, or not mold, but like guide them back into
To
normal life.
civilian,
Yeah, yeah,
more
it's a
civilian.
civilian life because that's a huge difference. Like that's a big transition. I can't imagine. And to have that kind of stress and not to have anybody to really coach him through it, that's crazy. That's just crazy.
Girl, can I be real with you? 'Cause we were talking about trauma. You talked about planes. Now, I was 11 when 9/11 happened,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
Girl,
That
I
was
still,
traumatic.
ever since now, I get on planes and I be paranoid. And I'm gonna tell you now, I have not went somewhere far. I went somewhere far once where I had to be on a plane for more than 6 hours. But I'm gonna tell y'all now, I've been paranoid. I've been traumatized since 9/11. Watching that, going to the city to go. I mean, like, we really experienced the glut of 9/11 when we were in New York.
Yeah.
Mind you, I didn't even live in the city. I lived in Long Island. I lived in Long Island and could see the smoke from Queens.
Mm,
Like, it's not a joke. Okay. I knew people who were my friends, my neighbor's uncle was there and survived. Okay, like it's real. It's real. And girl, I'm telling you, every time I hear a plane in the sky, I'm looking like it sounds too close. Oh my God. I don't know. I'm paranoid, y'all. I'm telling you,
till this day, you
I thought of defending myself on a plane. If somebody tries to get on a plane and what am I gonna do? I think of
yeah.
scenarios like that. I think about mass shootings. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I am so traumatized. And I don't know if this falls under chronic. I don't know which category. If I had to choose a category of which type of trauma I have, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say that it would be chronic. I think out of all the ones that I'm listening to,
Mm,
that I'm reading, I would say it would be chronic trauma for me.
mm.
It'd be chronic trauma. I mean, not chronic, complex. I'm sorry, guys.
What's the
Complex.
complex trauma again?
Complex trauma is the exposure. It is a result of exposure to varied multiple traumatic events or experiences.
That happens over time.
Yes,
Yeah.
and um, and for me, I'm mass shootings now have recently terrified me even more than ever. And since I've been born, there's been a lot of dramatic, um, a lot of huge, big mass shootings that have. I'm not gonna lie to you, Jen. I've never told you this, but they take a toll on me. I
Mhm.
cried. I cried when they had that LGBT. When I just moved to Florida,
In Orlando.
got up that club in Orlando, I cried. You hear me? Terrified. I cried.
Mhm.
The mass shooting in Vegas. The mass shooting recently in the grocery store, at the
Yeah.
nail salon, where I mean, like, girl, I'm at the point now where I told my husband, I need to go get a gun.
Mhm.
I need to train. I need to get a license, and I need to train myself. I need to go get trained. I'm gonna get a license. I want to get trained how to shoot a gun because
Mhm.
I need to have a gun to protect myself. That's how I feel now.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm all for women being protected. It's important at this time because this world is getting crazier by the second. You see people getting abducted. People look. Mm-mm,
We
mm-mm.
can go, girl. Let's not even, cause
Girl, that's a whole nother topic. Well,
huh?
so that's a whole nother topic.
Girl, trafficking alone. I'm
Yeah.
paranoid. I get in my car. Before I get out my car, I look around.
Me
Grocery
too.
store, no matter where I go, that's how paranoid I am. I'm checking
Mhm.
my surroundings. If I see a car in my complex where I live, and it is out, and the car is way out of character, I'm
Yeah.
watching you. Y'all think I'm not watching? I'm inside and I'm watching. And that's
Look,
not.
if you looking at me too hard, I'm already keeping my eye on you. Like, why are you so interested? You're not gonna say hi, good morning, like no, that's definitely traumatic. And that's one of my fears, girl. That's why I'm like, try to remain low key with the social media stuff because that's like catfishing and you seen you. Oh my god. So, I'm, like, petrified of people, like, stalking and trafficking and kidnapping because they'll see an ounce of vulnerability and to try to take it from there, but no, you have to be aware of your surroundings, you need to be aware of your traumas, just open your eyes and just pay attention.
Yes, especially women. I'm sorry. We are too quick to be about our day-to-days and not
Yeah.
pay attention to our surroundings. When you
Mm,
walk out of the job, listen, my car from my job to my car is about 20 feet, okay? Don't
mm,
get it twisted. I'm not walking out by myself.
yeah.
I'm not. We are too quick to fall into routines and think that it's okay. You get what I'm saying? We're
Mm.
getting off topic, girl. I
Yeah,
know.
we are.
Let's go back. Let's go back. So I want to. I was saying that for me, the airplanes. I would call it complex trauma for me. 9/11 was huge for me. It traumatized
Yeah.
me as a kid. Until this day, I mean, I know that I struggle with planes and getting on them, and they say it's still the safest way to travel. But Jen just jacked up my whole life talking about a plane landed and cut somebody's head off.
Yeah. That
Thing.
I didn't even think it was real. I thought it was just clickbait, but it was a real story, and it's traumatic. It really is because we don't think that things like that could happen, but it's when we think that, "Oh, this can happen," that we're proven wrong. So, it's just important to just stay aware of what's possible and your surroundings.
Girl, can we talk about it? I want to go into acute trauma because acute
Yeah.
trauma. Now it says acute trauma says it mainly results from a single distressing event such as an accident, rape, assault, or a natural disaster, right?
Mm.
Now, girl, let's be real. And I'm gonna be real with y'all on here. How many of us as women have been sexually molested, sexually abused, sexually touched in a way that we didn't want? And I'm gonna be real with you, Jen. There's a lot of females that I talk to that they've been touched, abused, or molested in
Yeah.
some type of way, where
Yeah.
someone came on to them, touched them. I mean, like, and we didn't have control over it.
Yeah.
I
That's
know. It's happened to me.
it's
It's
more often it happened to me as well. It's happening more often than we expect, and the fact that we don't talk about it is enough is a problem
yeah,
because it's not until, like, I got older because I like you, I've experienced molestation by, a person that I was supposed to have been able to trust. Um,
yes.
so and it's unfortunate because it's not something that like, I tried to open up about it, but I just wasn't heard, you know what I mean? So after that experience, I kept it in for a long time. Like I just didn't talk about it, didn't tell anybody, you know what I mean? If I felt comfortable or confident enough to tell a person about it, I would, but it's just it definitely leaves a scar on you. And it's funny because you mentioned earlier about like being disconnected. Like after my experience of being taken advantage of, I'll say. I was completely disconnected from my body for years. Like,
Wow.
I don't know how to explain it really. Like, I didn't just own it. Like, right now, if you see me, you'll see so much confidence and all this stuff.
Mhm.
For a long time, like, I couldn't even enjoy sex because it would bring back the feelings that I would felt, you know what I mean? In that instance, like, I couldn't like, I would have sex, but it just would be uncomfortable for me, like, it just was uncomfortable, you know what I mean? Like, I don't like being touched, even till this day, like, certain touches I'm not comfortable with, like,
Ooh,
certain
it's
people being in my
trigger,
space.
right?
Huh?
It sets that trigger for you.
It sets that trigger because I'm just like, "Why are you comfortable enough to touch me?" You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
a and it's not even just with that one person, like, I've been in a situation, even with an employer, like, I that was just a little bit too close and would just try to get a little handsy with me, and
Yeah.
that's also, like, a no-no, like, type of situation because you don't have my consent to touch me, like, why is that okay for you to go ahead and be in my personal space? But I wasn't confident enough then to draw the line in that situation, you know what I mean? But that was another thing that has triggered my I don't know, discomfort for people being in my bubble.
Triggered your
Um,
discomfort, boo? Do you think it's triggered your discomfort or it triggered that trauma for you?
it triggered that trauma for sure. For a long time, I thought I had gotten over the trauma, because it was so long ago. But there was just so many things that I had to come to terms with in that situation. First of all, I had to heal from that. I had to learn to forgive that person, that I had that experience with, and also had to just like put myself aside and just empathize with them and just think like, well, first of all, you're young. This isn't something that you just go
Right.
out and learn on your own. Like, who taught you this? Like, where did you learn this behavior from? Why did you think that it was okay for you to come and do it to me? Which made me ultimately think that it could have happened to that person, which
Yeah.
also made me empathize with them more to, and that led to my forgiving them and being able to heal years later. But for a long time, I just didn't even think about it. I would just push it to the back of my mind and just say, it happened. And I would kind of feel bad about it because I didn't really say no.
Right.
I didn't really know it wasn't really appropriate. It just kind of, like you said, became what it was,
Mhm.
right? So years later, after going through what I went through and trying to heal from it and being comfortable with being touched and being around people and, expressing myself again, I really had to really gain control over myself, because like I told you, I was disconnected for a long time.
Mhm.
So after really being able to come to terms with everything that had happened to me, even the triggers that reminded me of that situation, I really had to take ownership about my role in the situation, which was I was young and learning and growing, and none of it was my fault. You know what I mean? And that, everybody experiences different things in order for them to develop certain things, and that I just needed to grow within that situation for me to tell my testimony and, inspire others. So it doesn't really matter what traumas you really go through, no matter how big it may be, it really does affect you later on in life, especially if you don't pinpoint that and really, own it. Girl, when I told you 5 years ago I was a hot mess in Boston, it's mostly because of that trauma that I didn't heal from. You know what I mean? Like, I was carrying so much weight and I was expecting the person that I was with at that time to like lift that weight and make me happy, but it wasn't her job, right? That's ultimately what I feel like led to the breakup in the relationship on my part. But in that, like I said, I just needed to learn, take accountability, forgive, and move on. And I think that, anybody else that's experiencing any kind of trauma, it's important for you to do the same thing.
I agree with you, Jen. I totally agree with you. And, I appreciate that you were able to take the time to reflect on that person on the other end. And
Yeah.
you didn't just, you weren't just like, I'm a victim, I'm a victim. You're like, this person could be a victim of abuse too.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot to actually get yourself to that place. And I think that the role that you took of self-reflection is what got you to the point of healing, and that's really important.
Mhm.
Um, I know you didn't give much detail of the experience, but I don't have a problem with sharing mine because I actually spoke to my mom about my situation when she sent me to Jamaica when I was young, and I was staying with someone that was close to my mom, and I went. The lady she sent me to go get something. Right? She's like, go down to the shop real quick and get say rice and flour. Right? I don't know why I said it with an accent. God.
They
Right?
gotta know, true Jamaican over here.
Right? So I said, okay. And then I went down, right? And when I went down there, there was this man who forced himself on me. And at the time, I think I was 8 years old.
Mm.
He forced himself on me. And when he forced himself on me, he didn't get nowhere. He was just very big. I just remember this very heavy man on top of me. And I'm like, get off of me. You know what I mean? And I just kept saying, get off, man. I'm just pushing him off, pushing him off.
Yeah.
I go back down to I run out, finally get him off of me, and I run out. And it's like he was just like, you want my kisses, you want me, you did. And I'm like, I'm 8, hello. And this man is like, I don't know, he could be 50, 60 years old.
Wow.
And he was just heavy. Oh my gosh. So, and it's crazy what you remember, girl, because it's so funny. There's a lot of things I don't remember that I shoved to the back of my head. But this is the one of the first instances of someone coming on to me a certain type of way and touching me in a way that I did not accept. This is the
Yeah.
first one that I can remember. There's a few, but this is the first. And I spoke to my mother about it. And I love how my mom is real nitty gritty. My moms.
Yeah.
When it happened in Jamaica, I went and told the lady I was staying with, like, this man got on top of me, da da da. And she went down to talk to him, and he said that 8-year-old Christina Nelson came on to him. Could you believe that?
That's usually what the excuse that they give.
Huh.
"Oh, you came on to me."
Right.
I'm a
And
kid, what the hell?
she went back and she told my mom, and my mom was like, "Don't make me come to Jamaica and kill somebody." Straight up. The first thing my mom said is, "I know my child. I know my child. And I know for a fact that my 8-year-old child did not come on to a 60-year-old man." Straight up. And my mom told the lady I was staying with, like, "Don't send my daughter anywhere. Make sure if you sending her somewhere that you with her, you know what I mean?
Mhm,
Oh, I'm right there in plain sight, so I can
mhm,
say, oh, I sent her right, across the hall or something. But
mhm,
don't send my child nowhere." And this
mhm,
man did touch her, you know?
mhm.
At the time, did my mom handle it I think my mom handled it well for me because my mom straightened everybody out.
As
And
she should have, and she believed you. She didn't have to ask you questions or need proof or anything. Like, she knows you
yeah,
wouldn't and she knows you wouldn't lie about something like that.
yes.
So the
And
fact that she really believed you and took action is the most important thing that you should do in that situation.
after that, my mom is not like the old, like most traditional parents, I would say, because she's mad Jamaican. And I would say most traditional parents would sit down and have the conversation like, make sure that you have a conversation. If anything ever happens, my mom said, anybody touch you, anybody touch you. I don't mean to yell, but she's just like, yo, anybody ever touch you, you better come to me. Period.
Yeah.
Period. Come to me. You understand? Don't go to your father. Don't go to nobody. Come to me.
Mhm,
Nobody's allowed to touch you. Nobody.
mhm.
And if they
Yeah.
you tell them about themselves, you tell them they were wrong, you do what you got to do. She's like, I don't care if you got to throw hands. And if you
Mhm.
handle that situation right in the moment, if you got to mess them up, because one thing my mother taught me was to defend myself.
Yeah.
Throw hands, mess them up, do what you got to do, in the care, bite them, do whatever. But you
Mhm.
come to me after and let me finish it.
Mm.
Straight up. That was my mother.
Yeah. That's real.
Yes. So shout out to Mama Dukes, but always one thing I can say about my mother, she claims she know me, but she knows me enough. And I
Mhm,
can say that she's always on my side. I can say tomorrow if somebody robbed the bank and say Christina did it, my mom will say no, straight up. Because that's
mhm.
my mother. And a lot of us as parents need to really support our kids in certain situations. If you
In
know
all situations, it's
I'm gonna
support your kids.
some of these times I can't support these kids. You
Yeah.
are There are times when I've seen some things where I'm like, you shouldn't be getting behind your child in this situation. Your child is
Mm.
wrong, and you need to accept that your child's wrong.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you were teaching your kid a lesson, and if you're supporting them when they're wrong, you're not teaching them anything. Let's be real.
Yeah. Imma support my child in front of that person. When we get home, Imma cuss you the hell out and let you know that you was wrong, but I'm not gonna embarrass you in front of these people because we on the same team. I'm not gonna
Right,
do that to
right,
you.
right. I mean,
The
it
hell?
depends for me because I will rip your ass. I don't have kids yet, but I will rip you in front of somebody if you was doing something crazy and you knew you're wrong. I'm gonna rip you in front of that person. That's just me. I'm gonna be real
Yeah.
old school. I'm not gonna lie. Just,
Mhm.
but yes, that was we were talking about that trauma, and I just want to say anyone that's I'm going to link a lot of information into this podcast. If anyone has been sexually abused in any way and you need to talk about it, you need a therapist, you need any type of resources, we'll definitely link the resources in the bio to this podcast. Okay. It is real. We all face it as women. And I don't know the statistics. I probably need to look into it. But I believe that at least every woman has had one experience. I really do believe it. I
Mhm.
really do. Girl, can we talk about chronic trauma?
Girl,
Can we
define chronic trauma again.
Did we talk about I think actually we talked about chronic trauma is when a person is exposed to multiple long-term and prolonged distressing traumatic events at an
Mm,
extended period of time, right?
mm,
And we were talking about we talked about it, yeah, domestic violence, bullying. Girl, I think our kids faced chronic trauma all the time. Let's not even
Mm.
talk about how some social media contributes to a lot of that trauma.
Yeah.
I don't care, girl. I don't know. I keep talking about social media, and I know that I have to be on there because now social media is like a business to me, right?
Mhm.
But in all reality, people do not have limitations.
Yeah.
I think that when it comes to social media, we talk about healthy boundaries all the time. But when it comes to social media, you need to set boundaries on social media. What are you allowing to share? What are you allowing to respond to? What are you allowing people to respond to you about? Because whatever you give your energy to, real facts, what you give your energy to is what you're going to get back. I see
Mhm.
some people post some crazy things sometimes. I'll be itching. I'll be itching to respond to it. And then I say to myself, man, I don't really care that much because I don't care
Yeah.
about you. I know what I believe in. At the end of the day, it is what it is. But I see people going like long, lengthy talkbacks and going back and forth about things. Bye. I'm not gonna do that
Yeah. I ain't
because
got time or energy.
listen, if we want to talk about long-term trauma, social media is a long-term trauma that is affecting people every single day. People are getting bullied. And I'm talking about, and let's not even talk Kim Kardashian. Let's be real. Kanye. Huge two people who constantly get traumatized. Two people who constantly get traumatized on social media all the time. And it gives you anxiety. Social media gives you anxiety because false reality. I'm not
Mm.
gonna front the false reality. The need. You know what's crazy? I was on the group chat with my church, and the talk was about social media, and it was like, oh, my social media page is for me, and he's like, the person hosting it was like, if it is for you, why share it?
Yeah.
You don't. If it's for you, you don't need to share. Take your pictures, keep your pictures in your phone.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And I said, wow. I said, he hit the nail. When I post something, it's not for me. It's for me to share for everyone.
Mhm.
I'm stepping out of that my me zone and giving it to everyone. But in
Yeah.
the process, if it's giving me anxiety, if it is traumatizing my life on a daily basis because oh I can't live up to the other people on social media, or I need to go in debt to have clothes and shoes like everybody else, or I need to have 1 million followers to say that I'm cool. How do I come out of that stress daily? Some kids are like in that phase right now, girl.
Mhm.
I, I'm very fortunate that my nieces and nephews are not really crazy about having 1 million followers. They don't even have more than 10 pictures on their pages. But I do know grown ass people, love. I know grown ass people who live through their Instagram, okay, and live through their Facebook, and that is not who they are every day of their lives.
Mm.
Real shit. And I literally just peeped it. I said, wow, I noticed the person. And I'm like, damn, this person that you are on social media, that is not who you are in person.
Yeah.
You are not that outgoing. You're not that talkative. You're not that sweet. Like you share, and I noticed that this person has no friends.
Mm.
No friends. They live their life through social media. So their friends are social media people.
Mm.
They don't have real life conversations with nobody. So what they do is every time when they're ready to have a conversation, right? They pick up their phone and go, "Hey guys, I was thinking about going for a jog, but I wasn't sure if I should go for a jog because I'm trying to take care of my body and everything like that." Because they don't have an actual person to share that with.
Mm.
They do it on the phone through the
Mm.
camera and share it on their story every day.
Yeah.
The trauma, girl,
Mm.
that this person's life
Mm.
is facing daily. And I'm gonna be real with you, this person, from my experience, this person says that they have anxiety, that they face anxiety daily, and they're not used to being out about in public.
And the social media is only making it worse because it's forcing you to isolate yourself more,
Yes,
which when you put yourself back into reality, into real life situations, you're gonna be even more isolated because you're not accustomed to it. You become a social media person.
girl, it's real. It's real crazy, y'all.
Yeah.
Moving on, we want to talk about, and we're gonna hit it real quick, just to make sure that we understand how to identify our trauma. What does it what does it look like to identify trauma? Because we're going about our day to days, and sometimes we don't understand that something has traumatized. What does it look like? And some words that we can throw at you that it might look like is like withdrawal, guilt, uh,
Mm.
anxiety,
Mhm.
mood swings.
Isolation.
Is- Isolation is huge, huge. Isolation, disbelief,
Mm.
shock, denial, the feeling of hopelessness,
Mm.
feeling of disconnect, huge. It's trauma. We have to be able to identify it. And I want you guys to be able to understand what those are, okay? Be able to see it and be able to talk about it, you know? If you spend hours in, I'm gonna be real with you. If you know when you go to the doctor, girl, and we're gonna end it on this. You know when you go to the doctor and they make you always fill out a form, and the form always gives you a scale from 0 to 5, and it
Mm.
asks you the questions, do you spend hours sleeping every day? And you have to rate it from 0 to 5, maybe 3, maybe 0. Do you think about killing yourself, right?
Mhm.
Um, do you have a sense of hopelessness? Do you feel overworked? Like when they ask you, when you go to the doctor, you're circling like whatever, you know? But if you really, really think through those questions, you're like, dang, I might be actually a little depressed, or I might be facing some sense of trauma that's constantly taunting me.
Mhm.
Do you randomly get fluttered and does your heart race like crazy? Do you feel like you should isolate yourself from other people? Do you spend hours and hours crying? They ask those questions, girl.
Yeah. As we talk about this topic, do you have a situation that comes to mind that you just can't get out your head? That's trauma. Whatever that situation is that came to your head when we talked about trauma, this whole podcast, that's your trauma.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't even have to be anything that we've been through, anything that we've experienced. Everybody has their own individual lives that they lead, which involves different traumas and experiences that we go through. So just go through the experiences that you've lived through, anything that's affected you to the point where you're unable to let certain things go. That's your trauma. You need to heal from that. Find out what triggers that, what caused that, what you can do to move on from that, who you need to forgive to get to your healing process, and just do what you need to do. Because at the end of the day, ultimately, you're doing this for yourself. You really need to heal and move on and grow from your trauma for yourself and nobody else.
Yes. I love it, guys. Listen, we want to thank you guys so much for listening and being faithful to us. We appreciate you guys. And I'm super grateful for the listeners because, listen, sharing this type of content and being transparent, it takes a lot out of me and it takes a lot out of Jen. It is something that we have sacrificed. And sacrificing means putting ourselves out there so that people could genuinely see that you're not alone. You're not alone. Okay? It's about sharing the story, you know? If it wasn't for Me Too, the Me Too movement, I would have never known that so many other women face things that I faced before, right? And it's on a global scale. You just because even industry people are facing it. So I'm happy to be able to share my story on here. I'm happy to talk about it, and I'm glad that we're actually in that place of being where Jen and I are both healed, right? Both healed and in a place to discuss our story with you guys.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. And guys, listen, we have a few events coming up, and Mental Health Awareness Month is in May. So we're looking forward to everyone coming on to our live. We'll be going live every single Monday in May, and we're gonna have Mental Health Talk Mondays. Okay, we'll be talking with different mental health counselors who are all women, and I can't wait to really share what the topics are going to be about. So you guys definitely want to hop on that. We'll be going live every Monday at 7 p.m. at WOEINC. That's Woe Inc. on Woe Inc.'s page. Okay, guys? Thank y'all so much. Thank you for being on here. We love y'all, and we see you guys next week. Deuces.